Your baby cannot tell you when something hurts. They don't have the words. They don't even have the awareness that what they're feeling has a name. But here's what most parents don't know. Your baby is recording everything, every moment, every tone of voice, every time you look away, every time the room gets too loud. And they are not just feeling it in the moment, they are storing it deep in a nervous system that is still being built layer by layer, day by day around you. I'm not here to talk about abuse. I'm not here to talk about neglect in any obvious sense. I'm talking about 10 completely normal, everyday things that loving, caring, exhausted, well-meaning parents do every single day. Things that hurt their baby's feelings in ways their baby cannot express. And the consequences are not just emotional, they are neurological, they are developmental, and in some cases, the research tells us, they echo forward into childhood and beyond. Stay with me because by the time we reach number 4, you are going to understand something about your baby's brain that most pediatricians never explain in a checkup. And when we get to number 7, you will never look at a quiet, ordinary moment with your baby the same way again. This is not about guilt. Guilt looks backward. This is about understanding. And understanding looks forward, because once you see what is actually happening inside your baby during these moments, you cannot unsee it, and that changes how you show up, and that changes everything. Let's start with number 1. We will continue with the second part of the chapter. The new research shows that there's a strong link between the amount of protein in your diet and how well you sleep. The study was conducted over a period of 3 months and involved more than 200 adults. Here's what we found. Participants who consumed more protein generally reported better sleep quality. Those with higher protein intake experienced fewer sleep disturbances. The benefits were observed regardless of age or gender. Number 1. Letting them cry it out longer than feels right to you. You've read about it, maybe someone you trust recommended it. Wait a few minutes, let them self-soothe, teach them independence early. And so you lie in bed listening, watching the monitor, every instinct in your body telling you to go, and you wait, because you were told that waiting was the right thing to do. Here is what is happening in your baby's body during those minutes of silence from you. Their cortisol levels, that is the primary stress hormone, spike rapidly. And the critical thing that researchers like Dr. Megan Gunner at the University of Minnesota have spent decades documenting is this. In the first year of life, repeated cortisol surges without a calming response from a caregiver do not teach independence. They alter the architecture of the developing brain. The regions responsible for emotional regulation, for trust, for memory formation, are directly shaped by whether help comes or does not come. A baby who cries and is answered learns the world is safe. A baby who cries into silence learns something else entirely, and that lesson is far harder to undo later. This does not mean one late response breaks anything, but the pattern matters enormously. And once you understand what is firing neurologically in those quiet minutes, waiting will never feel neutral again. Number 2, the tone of your voice when you are exhausted. You are running on 3 hours of sleep. You pick your baby up and you say, okay, I'm here. The words are right, but your voice is tight. There's an edge underneath it. And here is the part that will genuinely surprise you. Your baby does not hear your words yet, but they feel your tone with startling precision. Researchers at the University of Oregon found that infants as young as 6 months showed measurable stress responses in their heart rate and cortisol levels when they overheard adult tension, even while they were asleep. Your baby's nervous system is tuned to the emotional frequency of your voice before they are even born. A tense tone does not mean comfort to them. It means the person I depend on for everything is not okay, and if they are not okay, I am not safe. One slow breath before you pick them up. That is the whole shift. One breath changes what your nervous system broadcasts, and therefore what theirs receives. Number 3, forcing interaction before your baby is ready. You hold your baby up to a relative, a friend, a well-meaning stranger who loves babies. The person leans in close, voice loud and bright, and your baby turns away, looks down, maybe fusses, and the adult response is almost always, "Oh, come on, look at me." But your baby is not being difficult. They are communicating. Dr. Ed Tronick, one of the world's leading infant researchers, has documented that gaze aversion in babies is a genuine regulatory strategy. Looking away is their only tool for saying, "This is too much right now, I need a moment." When that signal is overridden again and again, the baby begins to learn something that takes years to unlearn. My no does not matter. The people who are supposed to protect me will push past my limits. That is not a memory they will recall. It is a body-level belief about how the world works. Number 4. Saying you're fine when they are clearly not. Your baby is upset, really upset. Maybe you took something from their hands. Maybe they cannot reach the toy they want. And you say, completely naturally, "You're okay, you're fine." Here's the science. Babies do not have the neurological capacity to self-regulate their emotions. That capacity, housed in the prefrontal cortex, does not fully develop until the mid-20s. What they have instead is co-regulation. They borrow your calm nervous system to settle their own. When you minimize what they are feeling, the distress has nowhere to go. And research on chronic misattunement, not abuse, simply not reflecting a child's emotional reality back to them accurately, shows it is one of the most significant predictors of anxiety and emotional dysregulation in later childhood. You do not have to fix their feelings, you only have to name them. "I see you." That is so frustrating. That is the entire intervention. Seeing them is enough. Number 5. Overstimulation disguised as enrichment. We live in a world that treats stimulation as love. Bright toys, baby gyms with flashing lights, sensory bins, music classes, and all of it comes from the most genuine place. You want to give your baby every possible advantage, but here is what the research makes very clear. A newborn's nervous system can only process a tiny fraction of the sensory input that adults absorb without thinking. What feels like a normal, slightly busy environment to you, a television on in the background, people talking, a phone buzzing on the counter, music playing, can feel catastrophically overwhelming to a nervous system that is still learning to exist outside the womb. Dr. Heidelise Alls at Harvard Medical School spent decades studying how sensory overload affects infant brain development and found that overstimulated babies show measurable disruptions in their developing neural organization. The signs of overstimulation are almost always misread: arching the back, going glassy-eyed, hiccuping suddenly, looking away. And the instinctive parental response is to do more rocking, more talking, more noise to distract them, which makes everything worse. What an overstimulated baby needs is the opposite of every instinct tells you to give them: quiet, dimness, stillness, less, not more. Number 6. Looking at your phone while your baby is looking at you. This one is not about screen time in the way you've heard it discussed before. It's about something far more specific. In the landmark still face experiments designed by Dr. Edward Tronick, researchers had mothers interact warmly with their babies, then suddenly go completely blank and unresponsive. Within seconds, babies became visibly distressed. They tried everything to re-engage, smiling, pointing, vocalizing, and when nothing worked, they collapsed inward. Some cried, some showed acute physiological signs of stress. Now here's why this matters for your phone. When you are truly absorbed in scrolling, your face goes still. Your responsiveness drops to almost nothing. To your baby, who is constantly reading your face for information about whether the world is safe right now, that blank, absorbed expression triggers the same distress response as the still face experiment. Your face is their emotional mirror, and when that mirror goes dark, even briefly, even repeatedly throughout an ordinary day, it registers in ways you cannot see. If what you are learning right now is something nobody ever walked you through before, the science of what your baby is actually experiencing, the small shifts that change everything, this is exactly the kind of content this channel is built around. Hit subscribe right now because the next video goes even deeper into how your baby reads your emotional state before you are even aware you are having one. You do not want to miss it. Number 7. Not narrating your world together. This one sounds strange, so stay with me because it is one of the most important discoveries in infant psychology of the last 20 years. Researchers call them serve and return interactions. Your baby makes a sound, points at something, looks at the light on the ceiling with wide, curious eyes, and you follow their gaze and say, "Oh, you see that? That's the light, isn't it?" That back and forth, that tiny, unremarkable exchange does something
Number 9. Not enough incidental touch throughout the day. This one is quiet. So quiet it almost does not feel like anything is missing. You are feeding them, changing them, holding them when they cry. You are doing all of it. But touch is not just about the big moments of care. Research on skin-to-skin contact and physical closeness has become so overwhelming in the last 2 decades that calling it optional would be scientifically inaccurate. When a baby is held, oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released in both the baby and the caregiver simultaneously. The vagal nerve, the primary nerve of the parasympathetic nervous system, is activated. Cortisol drops, heart rate stabilizes. The baby's entire body shifts into a state that says, "I am safe." But it is not just about picking them up when they cry. It's about the casual, incidental physical connection that happens in between. A hand resting on their back while they play, brushing their cheek as you pass. The warmth of simply being close. Dr. Tiffany Field at the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami has documented that babies who experience chronic low physical contact, even in loving homes where every other need is met, show measurably higher baseline cortisol. Their nervous systems are running a low-grade stress response, not because they are in danger, but because one of the most ancient signals of safety is simply not there often enough. And number 10, and I have saved this one for last because it is in many ways the most important and the least talked about. Being physically present but emotionally somewhere else. Not absence, not neglect, emotional unavailability. The parent who is in the room, who is feeding and changing and going through every motion of care, but who is internally somewhere else entirely. Grieving, anxious, depressed, dissociated, overwhelmed in a way that has no bottom. This one matters so deeply and is spoken about so rarely because the truth is, your baby does not just need your body in the room, they need your emotional self present. Research on parental depression, particularly the work of Dr. Lynn Murray at the University of Reading, shows that babies of depressed mothers, even mothers who perform every physical act of caregiving with consistency, show disrupted attachment patterns, elevated stress responses, and altered development in the brain regions responsible for emotion and stress regulation. This is not said to blame anyone who is struggling. It is said to name something profound. Your baby is not just receiving your actions, they are receiving your emotional state. And the most powerful gift you can give them, more than any toy, any class, any carefully chosen intervention, is working on your own nervous system, your own healing, your own regulation. Because a parent who pauses to take one breath, who reaches out for support, who practices even the smallest act of coming back to themselves, that parent changes something in the room, and their baby feels it. So here we are at the end of these 10 things, and I want you to notice how you feel right now. Because if there is a tenderness in your chest, if you recognize yourself in some of these moments, that feeling is not guilt. That is attunement. That is the same quality that makes you a good parent. The fact that you are here, watching this, wanting to understand, asking yourself whether you are missing something. That question, that willingness to look is not a small thing. It is everything. Your baby does not need a perfect parent. The research is actually very clear on this. Donald Winnicott called it the good enough parent, someone who misses and then notices the miss, who gets it wrong and comes back, who does not always show up perfectly but keeps showing up. The moments of disconnection are not what shape your baby. It is the repair that shapes them, the return, the "I see you now, I am here." That is the architecture of secure attachment, not perfection, return. If this gave you something today, a new way of seeing, one moment you will handle differently, share it with another parent who needs to hear it. Because the most powerful thing we can do for the next generation is simply this: understanding what is actually happening inside the smallest people in our lives and choosing to meet them there. And if you want to go even deeper, the next video is going to show you something that will completely change how you understand your toddler's behavior, and why what looks like defiance is almost never what it seems. I'll see you there.